Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother...
Welcome to the party, pal!
All right, and welcome to Yippee-Ki-Yay Classic. We've done a couple... We've done a couple of showdowns. Now we're going back to the classic, which means one of us brings a film and we deep dive into that film.
People were sick of me winning, so I get it. I totally get it.
John won way too many, so we had to change the format.
Yeah.
Drew's bringing the show today to this one, but before we talk about that, we're going to talk about what you watched this week because we haven't done that in a couple of weeks. Let's start with Sean and Debbie. What'd you watch?
Well, we watched the new Netflix documentary series, Murder Among the Mormons, which I was really excited to see because I remember when the crimes happened and I read the books. It was early in my screenwriting career, and I really thought it'd make a great movie. Watching the documentary, I don't think it would make a good narrative film, but I thought it made a very good documentary. It's about a documents dealer who was like forging all these like incriminating documents about the origins of the Mormon church. And the Mormon church was snapping them up to sort of suppress them and all. And eventually the forger got over his head and started blowing people up with bombs in order to cover up his crime. So it was Murder Amongst the Mormons in the late 80s.
Oh. Good alliteration too. That's called alliteration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for acknowledging. Wojo and Brad. Brojo, what'd you watch?
What did we watch?
WandaVision.
We haven't finished, but we are watching WandaVision.
We've gotten through most of it.
Don't tell me because I'm never going to watch it.
What network is that
it.
on?
We're really enjoying it.
We don't always
Disney
watch
Plus.
all the Marvel stuff, but it's really interesting. It's a really cool concept. So I think it's
Yeah.
And you like what? Are you what? How many in are you?
I think we're 6 in.
6? Yeah.
6. Yeah, I think there's 9
Out of
episodes.
10
So we
total?
just have a couple more.
So
Okay.
yeah.
And I've been watching the Real World reunion. I can't help it. And then I watched the entire first season all over again. And now I'm on the second season. And Brad goes in another room because he does not like that at all.
Yeah, good for you, Brad.
I watched it when I was in my early 20s. It brings back a lot of memories. I'm not going to watch all the series because it became so formulaic and it became very different from the beginning. Like they walk in and they'd say, "Oh, who's going to sleep with who this time?" And I'm thinking, geez, just be yourself. But they started hiring more people who seemed like characters as opposed to regular people.
I think the first 3 series are those are the ones like, you know, like Puck and Pedro and like, you know, all that stuff where people didn't know anybody who was gay, know anybody who had AIDS, and then Pedro was like in your life. And the first three seasons of that show are still something pretty special. So I'm enjoying that reunion also.
Yep. And we're watching 30 Rock.
Yep.
Oh, you're gonna have to spin the wheel for us now. Now we're becoming
I was just gonna
Drew.
say, you guys they're throwing 3 up there without even asking permission. Just went for it. Very bold. That's good. John, what's the one you've watched this week?
The 5 things I'm watching this week are in alphabetical order. Actually, I'm continuing elementary. I'm on the 6th season out of 7 seasons, so I'm really excited about that. But I don't remember if I talked about this last week, but I finished WandaVision since you guys brought it up. I really enjoyed it. I waited till all the episodes dropped. No spoilers, but I was disappointed by the finale. I thought it was the weakest out of the 9.
Great.
I know.
Thanks.
I'm sorry to say that, but I thought Paul Bettany and Elisabeth Olsen were excellent in the show and played it really well. Because the first few episodes, you have no idea what's going on.
Exactly.
Really.
Yeah.
They drop a couple of things, but you really can't not figure it out. And they did that purposely. But it's worth the watch, even with the weak finale. And it is setting up Marvel's phase. I think it's phase 3, maybe phase 4, but it's definitely setting up the other movies. So I recommend it. It was good. It was really good.
Oh, okay. And Drew,
that's what I'm watching. That's it.
Drew, you said
we got the wheel ready.
Not yet, because you had something you wanted to bring up from last week, I guess, and then we'll get into.
I wanted to say one thing about from last week. First of all, I said that the FX series, What We Do in the Shadows, was 3 seasons, and it just got renewed for the 4th. It's actually been 2 seasons. It just got renewed for the 3rd. So I hope you guys can forgive me. I hate
you are out of here.
You know what? I was wondering why all those complaints were coming in.
All right,
Yeah,
only
I'm
one
sorry.
choice now.
But you know, the mispronunciation of everyone's
Half a
name.
choice.
Good viewers. You know, they deserve our trust.
Right.
I spoke to my cousin in Wellington, the medical examiner that I mentioned. I would like to see if they're having any vampire crimes. I spoke to her yesterday, and she said, actually, if you shoot somebody with a taser, it leaves punctures that could absolutely be mistaken for vampire bites. So that was good to know.
Interesting.
And then the only other thing I'll say before I tell you what I watched this week with the wheel, there's a show that was a vampire show that you can now watch on Prime. I can't believe I didn't mention it last week. It's called Ultraviolet. It stars Idris Elba and a bunch of other British actors. It's from the late 90s. And it's, I think, 6 episodes or 8 episodes. It is just a really spectacular imagining. It's kind of like the John Carpenter's Vampires with a church force of people hunting vampires, except it's taken more seriously. And it's on Prime, and it's definitely worth your time. So that's a good one.
All right, now we'll get to your
I want to watch it again.
Okay, so now Drew's had a lot of time because we took a break from the What You Watch, so he's got piles of stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But what we do is we spin the wheel, give him we pick one, he talks for 15, 20 seconds on that, and then we're done. Then he does the second one, and we'll take this one. Whatever one wins or spins, I'll take that off so we don't hit it again. We don't want that thing to happen that happened the last time. So
right, I still do think you should watch the Bee Gees documentary. It was very good.
Okay.
Yes.
Stand by. Oh,
Yay!
We just talked about
I
that.
think
All
we just
right.
talked
Good.
about
We
that,
already
didn't
talked
we?
about it, so now we don't have to talk
Well,
about it.
that'll save you some time. It's good. It's worth watching. But what's weird about it is that they're only together for a week of filming, I think. And one of the guys, Eric Nyes from the original show, he actually can't be there because he got a positive COVID test. So it's weird how it's just still as contemporary as possible. But it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're old like us and you remember and enjoyed the first time it was on.
All right. Well, I can't see it on my list, so if it hits again, I'll spin again. All right. So
I'll talk about it more. It's fine.
you keep talking.
There's too many things on there.
There's only 32 choices. It's fine.
Jesus God.
I don't know if I've watched that much in my life.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So this was I watched a trilogy of FBI movies that involved another member of the podcast named Sean Paul Murphy, and this was the one. They're all based on true stories or to help people prepare for real events. And this was a short film about. It's available on YouTube about a young man who was essentially seduced into spying for the Chinese to steal industrial secrets, and he got caught and he got arrested. That's not spoilers. It's just what happened. And I dug it, and it's nice when you watch something that somebody that you know made, and you go, "This is good storytelling. It's well done." So I recommend that you check out any of Sean's FBI films. They're all on YouTube.
No, very good.
Yes, I will say the guy, Glenn Duffy Shriver, idiot.
Oh yeah, I'm a total moron.
And we struggled to make him seem nicer and more appealing than he was in real life, too.
Yeah, he's
A little
pretty
creative
foolish.
license.
It's good when it stays within the
No,
podcast.
Little creative license.
We kept it pretty close, but I do want to say one thing about it. It's hilarious. So there's a guy that's caught and arrested and sent to federal prison for espionage. He's a college student. He gets a master's degree in international business. And he's like, yeah, in our interview with him, he's like, yeah, I'm planning to get out and get a job in international business. Everybody's like looking at each other. It's like, no one is going to hire you. Espionage.
The part of the application where you fill out, have you ever been arrested?
And also,
And for what?
yeah. And he was also like, yeah, and I guess he saw everyone looking around. He's like, well, I guess because he was in prison in Michigan. He's from Michigan. He goes, well, I guess I probably won't be able to get a job in Michigan. It's like, people are going to find out.
Assume he would move to China then. I mean, he's got
I
offers.
wish I could tell you more about it, but
China will give him a job.
yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, I was in a bit of a quandary because this brings up the whole. I was watching on HBO Max the Allen versus Farrow documentary series,
Ooh,
and I really reached a point where I just can't even look at a Woody Allen film anymore, and I feel really conflicted.
Wow.
I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the documentary series, I mean, it definitely is in Mia Farrow's perspective. Woody Allen, the only interviews they did with him was from they weren't even interviews. They were clips from his book that he wrote, and he actually narrated his book. And it's pretty powerful. And it really made me try to figure out the whole separate the artist from the art. And I have to say, I can't separate the artist from the art based on what I watched in this documentary and what he got away with in the 90s. I believe Dylan Farrow's account of what happened, and everybody, even the prosecutor who wouldn't prosecute because he didn't want to put it up on the stand, believes it happened. All the police believed it happened. And it's just because Woody Allen was so powerful and had such a good PR thing behind him that it just got buried and buried and buried. And you couple that with him marrying Soon Yi and all that stuff that went on beyond that, and it's just really powerful. And I don't know if I can watch another Woody Allen film. Not a new one, not even new ones. The new ones he's putting out are going out in Europe. They don't even play here anymore. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it's pretty powerful, and I'm kind of confused because I love the old, and this is the thing, you love somebody for his art, and the guy turns out to be a total shit potentially, and how do you separate that? Anyway, so that was my quandary.
That's a tough call.
Yeah, it's a
Are you asking for a comment on it or no?
Yeah, go ahead, throw it out there.
I haven't seen it yet, but I understand what you mean in that when the stuff came out about Kevin Spacey,
yeah,
I loved Kevin Spacey. I mean, he was one of my top 10 favorite actors. I found that I can watch his older stuff. I can watch American Beauty. I can watch, I could watch The Usual Suspects. I can't watch House of Cards anymore. And part of that is because he put out those weird videos when the whole brouhaha was kind of starting, portraying supposedly his character from there. And that just creeped me out. And I loved House of Cards. I just really loved that show. I thought it was so well done. And it's hard for me to separate that. I can't, I get all skeezed out, for lack of a better.
Well, what's happened with Woody Allen is the younger actors are now who didn't have the history that Diane Keaton's going to support him till the day she dies because he made her career with Annie Hall. And Alec Baldwin's a big supporter. There's a lot of people who stuck with him, but all these younger people gave up salaries and decided they don't want to work with him anymore. They don't have the history that these other people had.
Yeah.
So it's very,
it used to be such a great thing for actors to say, I was in a Woody Allen movie. I'm in a Woody Allen movie.
That's the thing about genius, right? I mean, and they brought up other artists and other geniuses who had issues. This painter who was abusive. They started.
And Roman Polanski got a standing ovation at the Oscars.
Right.
And he drugged her and raped a 14-year-old.
And it's again, how do you separate that? Chinatown's a fantastic film. It's one I love, and and the Woody Allen really made me sad because Annie Hall, the Played Again Sam, Sleeper, all those films you remember as a kid, it's hard to, but it's powerful.
It's Manhattan again in this context.
Yeah.
What's
right.
that?
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't watch that. Can't watch that one again.
Well, I don't even know. He dated a teenager back when he was making Manhattan. That's based on a teenager he dated. So I mean,
but I think to Wojo's point, like I can watch old Woody Allen stuff, but pre this kind of creepy stuff he was doing, and you kind of compartmentalize pre and post. I mean, it's kind of a way to justify it in your head. It's still creepy. Kevin Spacey I love, but like when we did LA Confidential, that's what I was thinking about the whole time with his character. I'm like, it was weird.
It's very difficult.
But it was new then too.
Yeah.
But I used to feel the same way before and after. But after watching this, I'm like, I can't even look at Annie Hall anymore.
Yeah,
maybe I can't do it.
Maybe I shouldn't watch it.
The other problem is that in reality, there is no pre and post.
There is
Exactly.
Kevin Spacey was doing that for 30 years.
Right. I guess
Absolutely.
when we found out about it.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. When it came out in the open, I guess that's
all right.
why,
So let's go to now. This is tough, but let's go to a light.
Just one thing.
Go ahead.
How I justified not to. I'm much like everyone else that I watch early Roman Polanski, not late Roman Polanski, and all. But it was a real quandary. We discussed this in early episodes when Me Too was really out there. It's like I just can't bring myself to say, well, I'm not going to watch Rosemary's Baby, because it's sort of like, then I'm diminishing Mia Farrow's work.
Right.
And like, I
Well,
love
I get
Ellie.
that.
Well, that's the other conundrum you have is like, what about the other people who were in the movie who didn't have this issue?
What
about everyone else who made it?
Exactly. And for example,
Yeah.
one of my all-time favorite TV series is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
All that stuff came out recently about Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
I will still watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I said to Brad, I will never watch his commentary again.
Yeah.
I don't care why he did what he did. I'm too uncomfortable because it was, when all those people from the cast come out, it's just tough. It's,
Yeah.
and
Well,
then he still hasn't said anything, which is so bizarre in the world of PR for this kind of thing. I mean,
Well, he probably figures if he does, more people are going to come out against him.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
probably.
well, this
Well, that's
series,
a good
like I
segue,
said,
Ralph, in the Drew's movie.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
let's
It is
go
actually-
from this. This is
It
tough.
is actually.
Let's go to a light film. So nice light.
Yeah, really.
Let's
So,
lighten the
Drew?
mood.
Drew, why don't you tell us what the film is that you brought to the table?
Okay. Well, the film is from 2017. It's interesting that you mentioned the Alan V. Farrow documentary, and then we just had that discussion because those issues are, on the face of it, obviously related to stuff that the movie is about, but also the story of the movie is related to that as well, and we'll talk about that later. But it's essentially a thriller, a mystery set in and around the Wind River Native American Reservation in Wyoming. And it's a really spectacular movie, a really challenging movie. And if you want to roll the trailer,
Yeah.
that'll get us
Again,
into it.
what's the name of the film? You didn't mention
The
that.
name is called Wind River, written and directed by Taylor Sheridan.
Sheriff's office.
I need emergency assistance.
What's your location?
The Wind River Indian Reservation.
I'm Jane Banner, FBI.
Welcome to Wyoming. You by yourself?
It's just me.
That's Corey Lambert. He's the one who found the body.
This is a homicide.
I knew that girl. She's a fighter.
They have 6 officers to cover an area the size of Rhode Island. Maybe you can help.
I only know what the tracks say.
What is it that you do again?
I hunt predators.
So why don't you come hunt one for me then? Why would a teenage girl be out here? What's she running from?
You're looking for clues, but you're missing all the signs.
Shouldn't we wait for backup?
This isn't the land of backup, Jane. This is a land of you're on your own.
Oh my God.
You won't get the answers you're looking for, no matter what you find.
Why would your daughter run from home?
I don't know why. She didn't tell me.
Out here. You cannot blink. Not ever.
This place. What it takes from us. What it took from you.
I got lucky.
Luck lives in the city.
Get your hand off that weapon!
Luck don't live out here.
I think the trailer gave away too much, but just jumping in on that, I think.
No, I think it does. But had any of you seen Wind River before we watched it for this?
I saw it in person.
You've been to Wind River is
You went to
different
Wind
than
River
it's
and
different
saw
than the movie Wind River.
Okay, this is
So,
spoiler alert territory too, everybody. So because this is a fairly
yes,
new
it
film.
is spoiler
Okay?
alert territory.
So
I don't know if you've seen Taylor Sheridan's other movies. He wrote the screenplays for Sicario and Hell or High Water. He wrote and directed this movie, and he's the guy behind the Yellowstone television series, which I have not watched yet, but
I've heard
that
it's
is a
great.
growing, yeah, it's supposed to be excellent. That is a growing empire. He's got 2 prequels in development. He has a huge deal with CBS Viacom to do more projects with that. So he's a guy that started as an actor, became a screenwriter, and he'll tell you he regards Sicario and Hell or High Water and Wind River as a sort of thematic trilogy. And you can see a lot of the issues that he addresses and the stories that he tells, and a lot of information, a lot of depictions of fathers that have lost their children or have been abandoned by their parents, or all these different kind of things. And this movie is really, it's so many things at once that really worked for me. I was excited to see it because I liked Sicario and Hell or High Water so much, and I was able to see it in the theater. It didn't get as wide a release or as much of a promotion as it deserved, which we'll talk about later for specific reasons. But it is just really good storytelling, and in a lot of ways, it's really simple storytelling. You don't have to get concerned about what's happening and who these people are and all this other stuff. There's a mystery, and you're in a world that you probably don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time in this world of life on a reservation, and so it was really absorbing and a great mystery. And then also about real world issues and the way that that people live that most of people in America aren't aware of. And that also, I think, the desire to do that story right and to honor the reality of the way that these people are treated, especially the way Native American women are treated and how many of them are exploited and go missing and are murdered and all that stuff. I think that drove the filmmakers to try to do as good a job as possible. So I was really curious to hear your reactions to it, because I've been wanting to bring this to the show for a while.
Wow. Well,
I love this movie.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go on, Joe.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I loved it. I absolutely loved this movie. I probably would not watch it again, only because it was distressing and the story is disturbing. But there were parts of it that reminded me of certain episodes of the series Longmire. If you saw that, if you didn't, it's fantastic. But just that, how there's tribal police on Native American land,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And just how these things happen and no one reports them. And we were talking about if someone, when the FBI agent shot the guy who sprayed whatever that was all over them, the tribal police officer said, "There's no, we can't call an ambulance. It'll take them, it's 50 miles. They're never going to get here on time." And to think of that kind of stuff, and to think of, this is going to sound, well, I don't know, I'll just say it, but I think a lot sometimes about how settlers basically stole the land, from Native Americans, pushed them in, and now there are these reservations where they're allowed to be, and they're not, they don't fare well. I've written about some stuff before. There's a lot of alcoholism. There's a lot of just things like what happened, and the words that came up afterward at the end of the movie, which I won't say because, man, it's just like a kick in the gut, when you find out this stuff is happening, and it's like nobody cares. And I thought it was a good story. I thought it was well told. It introduced me to things that I didn't know about before. And I actually liked a movie that someone picked here. I'm just as shocked as you are.
I'm shocked.
Brad?
Ditto. No, I enjoyed it too. And it was the same thing. I mean, it was, I get what you mean. It was a hard watch, but but I enjoyed, but I wanted to watch it. It wasn't something that I didn't want to see. And it was a very, very good story. I thought it was well done. It didn't move super fast, but I didn't feel like it was moving slow.
It didn't drag.
I mean? It didn't drag. But it was just, scenically, it was really gorgeous, of course, out, there in, big sky country and all that. And But no, I enjoyed the story, and it was, I think about too that they sent this FBI agent by herself out in the middle of nowhere. Usually, like I'm thinking, you almost always have some kind of backup with you. And I get it. At the beginning, they said, "Oh, they just sent the person who was closest there," but you would have thought that after a while they would have, had somebody else to come in and help.
And they were
her.
like, "This wasn't a big deal,"
Like, wow,
so they just sent me. I came from Las Vegas.
But again, it kind of goes to show, it was a Native American woman. It's kind of to beat that
the
point
lack
to,
of importance.
Who cares, right? Like people are, and it's really, really upsetting and sad.
Well, why are the FBI immediately called in for those kind of situations? Because it happened on a reservation?
Yes, that's the way that the law is set up. There was a court decision that basically said that the FBI is who has authority, and there's all these different rules about how essentially legally a reservation is within the United States, but not part of the United States when it comes to the different law enforcement groups and stuff. So that's why you have tribal police, which you can see in the movie are not very well supported. The FBI has this jurisdiction when there's a murder, but this woman, it's not even just that she was the closest, which is what their guess is. It's that they don't care.
Right.
And there are some things in the movie that may or may not be quite realistic in terms of things like that. I feel confident that if an FBI agent ended up shooting someone and killing
there
them,
would be people on the scene. I would think.
would probably be more people in, but it didn't feel.
And they would
it didn't
send more
feel,
than one person.
Right.
It was all movie
It didn't feel wrong though, because the whole point is that nobody cares about these people. And what you said, Wojo, about the reason that things are like this, it's true. I mean, this country is built on genocide and slavery and blood, and they explicitly say in the movie this is where the Arapaho people would go when it was warm, and then when the winter came, we would leave, and they never let us leave. And so, you have people that not only lost everything as a people, but they continue to lose everything and have nothing and continue to be the lowest priority, which is why nobody knows these kinds of stories, really.
Right. But
I
also
think the FBI got jurisdiction over this because of abuses in state police organizations. I think there's a big movie coming out about a series of murders in Oklahoma where people were murdering the Indians, people in the state in order to win oil rights. I think there's a big movie coming out. A couple people have tried to make it. But
is that the Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah, I think
that one. Yeah, that's gonna maybe be a Scorsese movie. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
There's a lot of history of that, but they would send two agents.
Right.
They would have sent two agents.
Don't you think, as a movie trope, I hate John, we all hate the trope, but they bring the young woman who's gonna, and she's there to protect a woman. It's a movie trope, but it worked. John,
you might not need
John
Jeremy
has a
Renner if you brought another guy with her.
John, what did you think?
Who? Me?
John.
Can't hear you, John.
It's okay. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll jump in while you're figuring that out. This reminded me a lot of, not reminded me, but Thunderheart. You ever seen Thunderheart?
Yeah, I was thinking of that one too.
With Val Kilmer,
one.
right?
Yeah.
Takes place on a reservation. And the same thing, you learn what these people have to live with and how, part of the thing in this film was the two young guys who, the line is they're going to either go to jail or go to drugs or whatever. There's nothing for these guys to live for.
Right.
They're completely beaten down. And that came through in Thunderheart as well. And, you don't want these films. I can't stand the white savior that comes in and does all this, because Val Kilmer in Thunderheart, at least Val Kilmer had some reasoning for what was going on in his brain and what was going on in that film. He was a descendant, I think a direct descendant of someone from Wounded Knee, I think, in that film. There you go. And again, the filmmaker in that one was very concerned about Native Americans, how they were being treated throughout the country, past and present, and what's going to happen in the future. So I got that Thunderheart vibe in this one. But still, Taylor Sheridan, the scene he did in Sicario. Now, I don't think he directed Sicario. He wrote Sicario, right?
Right. That was Denis Villeneuve that did that.
But
directed.
the tension that he builds in this one with that scene outside the RV, and the tension in the scene in the car chase scene that wasn't a car chase scene. It was at the Mexican border where everybody's in traffic, and the tension they built, right, in Sicario with that. and
Thanks,
Hell and High
because for a
Water has its
second
own.
I thought, I don't remember a car chase scene.
Remember that in
Right, no,
Mexico?
That's why I used the air quotes. It wasn't. It was they were sitting in traffic. But anyway, I'll talk. We can get into that more. John, you're back on? What did you think?
Yeah. So I like this movie. I like movies that take you to a place you haven't seen before. And the Wyoming scenery was, something I haven't really seen before. The Indian Reservation I've seen before in a couple of other movies. The whole look, I did have some issues with it. I thought Jeremy Renner was great. I thought Elisabeth Olsen was good. I also thought Greene was really good in this. I thought the performances were really solid. I had a couple of issues with the movie. The scene where they first meet those three guys who have nothing to do with this, but they're going to shoot an FBI agent. That didn't ring true with me. It escalated too quickly. I thought that ending scene, which I agree with you, Ralph, the tension was palpable, the way they played it. But it seemed to me the solving of the crime and their guilt about it happened, because he slipped and said something that she caught. But it didn't ring true. And the other thing that really bothered me about that entire scene was that, you meet I think it was two police officers that they bring on who die in this, and you're supposed to care, and you've only known them for 5 minutes. And what really bothered me was no reaction to Greene getting killed. So he's there throughout the whole movie. He gets shot in that thing, and not one word about him, nothing. Instead, there's a scene where he's in the hospital bed telling her how strong she is because she's the one who survived. Well, she survived because he was sniping everybody. So I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I did like the ending with the bad guy. The way they handled that. I thought that was really well done. But my other issue, and I do like this movie, so I want to make sure I'm clear on that. I really did enjoy it. I get the whole thing. White people are bad and they treat the Indians bad. But the cartoon villains, those guys, were one-dimensional bad guys, right? With no nuance, even a little nuance. Like they're beating up their friend because he won't let them rape the girl. So they beat him to a pulp. To me, it was just too.
Well, let me ask you this:
way too one-dimensional as far as I was concerned. I didn't like that.
I want to jump in. Let me jump in real quick about that because I thought about that too. Because there's a line when that guy is meeting his demise, right? We've just been through a year of COVID, right? And our brains definitely got affected and changed by being in your home and having to stay in the house for a year the way we have. We're doing things. So that guy at the end says, I'm stuck in Wyoming. I'm not justifying what they did. I'm kind of justifying because everything he was doing in this film, I'm talking about the director and the writer director, was just beating you, right. It's just obvious what was going on. Right. So yes, these are all, she was a caricature. The FBI, the young female FBI agent, kind of a rookie.
But even her, they gave a little nuance to. I mean, it was so black hat. It was just too much for me.
But she was so white hat. I mean, and Jeremy Renner was, I
liked him. I thought he was great in this. I really thought he was great.
And Greene has a connection to Thunderheart too. He's in that one as well.
Yeah.
I like
anyway, I wish that John, what you said about the way these men are portrayed, the villains essentially are portrayed in the movie, that it's too one note, it's too unrealistic. Unfortunately, it's actually very realistic because when they were shooting this movie, the filmmakers, they were there for about 40 days shooting the movie, and they learned casually, oh yeah, there's 12 women that are missing right now. And
wow.
The problem is that it's that what those installations are called man camps. They're literally called man camps. And those guys are security, private security. They're mercenaries. They're brought there to protect the oil rigs and protect the oil facilities and whatever else they're doing. And some of the stuff that that those men say is right in line with what they really do. Like I think when the first guy who Jeremy Renner snipes, I don't remember the character's name, but the first guy, he's got Elisabeth Olsen on the ground and he's got his pistol on her and he says, "Ooh, women are spunky around here." And it's like, he doesn't see these people as people. It doesn't matter to him. So that's what happens. That's why these women are murdered and raped and disappear. and they don't even keep track of the numbers, as we learn. And Taylor Sheridan has said in interviews and stuff that he actually tried. He had researchers try to find out. I want to end the movie with a number that says this many people go missing, and he found out that nobody really keeps those numbers. So it does feel almost like these villains are really bad villains, except that that's really what happens, and that these men are isolated and they get angry, and the idea that they would be so drunk and desperate that they would do such things that are so violent is completely plausible, unfortunately. And these women are the
but
victims
that's
of it.
again, it's in the context of this film. I mean, it's like any stereotype. It's like they picked not one of those guys in that RV, except for the boyfriend of the woman who gets raped and attacked, is a good guy. Not one of them is going to stop that. That's where I think the caricature comes in. I agree that yes, he's trying to make a point and he's trying to show it, but in the context of the film, everything is so black and white. Like, right? Like Sean was saying, it should have been 2 FBI agents, not a single, inexperienced person who's never been in the, didn't even have a snowsuit in the car, all that stuff that she went through. But I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm not trying to, I love the film. I'm not even going to deny that I love the film. I just think that, let's be honest, he's definitely trying to make a point, and he made it very well, and deservedly so. It needed to be made. And
yeah,
I mean,
the evil that he portrays, the evil that he portrays in the movie is that evil. It
right.
is.
It does
really
but
that
I just
evil.
think
it is that real.
It's concentrated in this everything. Well, that scene is concentrated. I mean, the fact that she stands in front of that door. I don't think an FBI agent would stand directly in front of a door.
Well, especially after the guy said, "There's an FBI agent in front of your door."
Well, that's when Graham Greene realized what was going on. They figured out.
Graham Greene realized it because Jeremy Renner radioed him.
Right.
That's when he realized it. Get away from the door. So that's,
So I'm saying everybody, it's a cliche everywhere, but it's not ineffective.
I want to hear from Deb.
Well, I like the movie. I like the quietness of it. I like the scenery. I like the coldness. You could feel the cold.
Yeah.
That's a movie that is very, it shows the coldness of some people's hearts, that they would do such a thing to a beautiful girl. And Jeremy Renner's daughter, I guess, was friends with this woman, this other girl that was, running away from these bad dudes. But we were out in Wyoming, and it is desolate. I mean, there you drive miles to go somewhere, miles and miles. And I think when you get out there and you think about the early days of, the pioneers when they went there, look what they were facing, just like the Indians as well, Native Americans. They're out there, and you're dealing with, cold weather. And
when it's cold out there, it's really cold.
I think
that's how their lungs exploded from the cold. I never.
Yeah, it's just life and death is just. And if you get caught out there, say you run out of fuel or food, or there's a blizzard, you got nobody really. So those things in your mind, I think we saw the drugs there too. So that, coupled with the fact that they can get away with it. So I think this is one example of what could happen, when you're an isolated place, and it's God's country. That's what I always say. And then Sean says this.
And he can keep it.
Well, the other underlying thing of this film is grief. The grief.
Yeah.
Yes.
It starts with that very first scene. You kind of sense something was going on there. I didn't quite figure it out until later that he had a daughter they explain it, but that wife seemed too young to have a daughter that would be old. I don't know. There was something
That's
but
Hollywood.
I love the relationship between Jeremy Renner and the other, the daughter's father.
I wanted to say that last scene. Yeah.
The loss of a child, when you lose somebody like that, it's like what goes on between men and how men relate to each other. Women will talk about it, but men just sort of sit with each other.
That scene where he meets the FBI, I'm talking about the father you're talking about, the Native American father.
Yes.
It was all tough in front of the FBI agent. As soon as Jeremy Renner's character walks up, you hear him wailing on the porch. I mean, he let it out. I mean, because he knew what Jeremy Renner went through, or his character went through with his
And
daughter.
same with the mother. You know,
Yes.
she was in the
Well,
room.
I didn't realize those were her clothes that she put on that woman.
Yeah.
Well, I realized that because it looked very similar
Oh.
to what she
The
was. It
picture.
was like the same color as
I
what the girl
didn't
was wearing.
realize-
No,
Hang
those were
on.
her clothes.
Hang on,
Well,
let's be clear. The Martin, that's Gil Birmingham. He's the father that you were just talking about.
Right.
His wife was the one who was in the bedroom cutting herself.
Right.
Cutting herself,
But
right.
Jeremy Renner's
Mother-in-law.
ex-mother-in-law
Right.
gives his daughter's clothes
Right.
to
Right.
Elisabeth Olsen, which is
Right.
why she says, "I need them back." See, that's the
Yeah.
thing. You said this movie is about grief. The way that the story is told in this movie,
beautiful.
it's just good, solid writing because
Yes.
you tend to use this phrase when you talk about, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or something, but the world building in this movie, it's very subtle and it's very smart. And there's no part of the movie where anybody says, I am affected by the fact that I found this dead woman because my daughter also died in the same. Movies will tell you that, and I
That's
love
not
the
entirely
fact.
fair.
I
That's
liked it
not,
too.
you know what?
They gradually.
No.
let
I'm
you
saying,
find it out.
they gradually. That's
No,
right. What I'm
okay,
saying is,
except-
I like the way that they did that because it made it more relatable. It gave Jeremy Renner a mission because he knows, and he says explicitly later in the movie when he tells Elisabeth Olsen what happened the night that his daughter vanished and turned up dead. We'll never know what happened.
Right.
And
it was his guilt
in
for
this
letting
case,
it happen. It was his guilt.
Yeah, and it's
right.
the one time I
Yeah.
let my
Listen,
guard down, which isn't really fair, but that's how people. That's what
that's
people's
how-
grief does
yeah.
to them.
But that's
Yeah.
how you feel. If it's
Yeah.
yeah.
But don't pretend like they didn't explicitly show. There's that one scene where Elisabeth Olsen has to go into the wife of the guy you're talking about, to see her cutting herself,
right,
to show how painful it was. And Elisabeth Olsen now goes, "Oh my God, I didn't realize," So he's doing things kind of
It's a
ham-fistedly.
movie.
What's that?
Well, she's the outsider.
Movie,
I know
Jeremy
it's,
Renner.
okay,
Jeremy
but, I
Renner
mean,
is a white man, but he's not
let's
the
not.
outsider.
But
to the
we're
story.
saying
He's
one
part of
thing.
this
We're saying
community,
he's
so.
being
Right.
subtle, but he's not being subtle. I mean, it's a film, so they got the lone FBI agent come in, who's a young woman who is gonna, Anyway, again, I loved it, so I'm not even complaining. I'm just.
Well, what did you guys think? What did you guys think about the? I mean,
Well,
he
let
makes
me-
a very specific storytelling choice in the movie because when you get to the final sequence in the man camp, you first have the scene where the contractors and the policemen draw on each other.
You're flanking me. You're flanking
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, which is very intense and very upsetting.
Yeah.
And then it diffuses, but it's like, well, we're not pointing guns at each other anymore, but there's real danger here.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
get to the point where the FBI agent is knocking on the door, and it's an amazing edit. It's an amazing storytelling choice. She knocks on the door, and the door opens, and suddenly you realize you're back in time to the night that Natalie was murdered.
That was
And that was a big risk because it could take you
that
out
could
of
have
it.
really sucked. That could have
Right,
really
and it was
been
amazing because John Bernthal, I didn't even know he was in the movie. I think he's a wonderful actor, and you have that warmth, that quiet moment where they're together. They clearly love each other. They're talking about escaping to Ojai, and then it just gets completely destroyed by these men coming back and beating him to death and raping her, and then she ends up in the snow, which is where she was found dead at the beginning of the movie, and then you cut back, like literally she opens the door to run away, and then it cuts back to Elisabeth Olsen's character standing outside, and it totally works. Because then the gunfight, it's not some big fancy, cool looking gunfight or anything. I mean, it is just fast and brutal, and guys are murdering each other. And there's little moments in it, like the contractor that shoots the cop that's on the ground, and they're reloading their guns at the same time. And the cop says, "Okay, let's go." And they start shooting at each other. And the contractor has a vest on. So he ends up on his knees and he just kind of gently taps the guy he just killed on the chest, like, okay, this is over. It's just the casual nature of the violence in the movie, which again is very real because that's how these people are treated.
Well, but
It's
like
just-
even
it's
John,
it's so intense.
Yeah. And but go ahead, Sean.
Well, a couple things. One thing I do want to say what I felt about this, because as I mentioned earlier, I've been to the reservation. I used to take during the 80s, I was single and I would go on these like solo vacations, be like an $800 vacation. I would just drive west until I spent $400. And your hotels were only like $20 a night. So I would drive until I spent $400 aimlessly and then come back when I spent half the money. But
2 miles from home, down to $3.
so, also in Thunderheart, you're talking about Thunderheart. What that first trip where I was in Wind River. Also, I go into this hotel. It's late, and the guy's like, "Do you want the Val Kilmer room?" And I go, "The Val Kilmer." The hotel looks familiar to me. And I go, and he goes, "From Thunderheart." I go, "Did he stay here?" He goes, "No, this is where the character lived. Do you want that
Oh,
room?"
wow.
Yeah, I'll take that.
And of course, you were like, yes,
Yes.
I want the Val Kilmer room.
There wasn't much demand. I think I was the only person at that. But, you could tell, you drive west, there's these lush, like things where it's grass as far as you could see. But every once in a while, you'll get somewhere where it's stone and rock and maybe like 3 pieces of grass. And then, you're on an Indian reservation, and when you see, it's like anytime you see land where it's like you could not make a living off of, that's when you're on the reservation. And Wind River was a very big reservation. And I was always very cautious when I was on the reservations because you're not in America anymore. If you get a speeding ticket, it isn't like, there's nowhere to appeal, but they were so depressing. And later when, I didn't realize I'd been in Wind River until I saw the thing that said Lander. And then I jumped in here and looked, that's the big reservation right before Lander if you're coming down from like Yellowstone. And it's very long. And, I did stop a couple places there, but it was very depressing. And years later when we were driving our daughter to California for college, and she kept wanting to go on a reservation. And I'm like, she wanted to see one. And I'm like, yeah, you don't really want to see one. It's so depressing. And there's like all those reservations down by Gallup, New Mexico, too.
Okay, but how does that relate to the film? What does that do for you for the film?
I'm just saying that's what put me in the mindset for this film is that I really appreciated it. And I really liked this film. I think Sheridan's a great writer. I think his work has been fabulous. And I do want to see Yellowstone. But I think he does, it really captures that sense of depression. And I mean, how many hours was I in this reservation? 12 hours? I got depressed. I can understand how you'd be if you lived there. And, so I understand that. I have a lot of the similar problems as John. First thing, as Drew thankfully put out, thanks for liking my film, is I've done a lot of work with the FBI, and I would find it extremely hard to believe that they would send an agent out on a homicide investigation by yourself. I just find that extremely hard to believe. I mean, it's a movie though. And the other thing I had a problem with is that many, once again, spoilers, that many of these people, the only, even the Mormon murders, the only way you can keep a secret between 2 people is if one of them is dead. I just couldn't believe that. How many of those guys were there? There were like 7 or 9 of them. Yeah. One of those people, they're not going to kill a federal agent. You can get away with killing an Indian woman, a Native American girl. You can get away with that. But if you kill the chief of police on the reservation, 2 people and a federal agent, you're all going to jail no matter what. There's no way you can cover that up. So one of them would have turned, because that's why, that's how they catch all criminals that are when there's a gang. One would turn. Probably half of them would be squealing on the others. Once those agents showed up there, these people would be saying, "What's our chance?" I mean, but I'm not complaining about that because it was a very tense, it was a great gunfight scene. So on a movie level, I really liked it. I thought Graham Greene was great, and the actor.
Yeah, I want to shout out Graham Greene a little bit. That man can act. I mean, he's been in a lot of great
good
stuff.
in everything he's in.
Yeah, he's very honest, and I mean, I believe him, and he was even Die Hard. He's one of the Die Hard films too. Die Hard with a Vengeance, I think, the third one.
He was in the third one, which was the only other good one, and
right. I agree.
So this was I really liked this film. I really liked the writing, and I didn't think he was heavy-handed with the grief or anything. I thought it was masterful. It is a very character-driven action film, which is unlike most action films today. I don't want to go with Fast and Furious or
That's a superhero film. So let's just don't. That's
okay.
Not,
You think?
Have you seen
more and more superhero?
Right. Have you seen To Hell and High Water or Hell and High Water?
Yeah, I love
Yes.
that.
We did.
Right.
Saw that.
That's seeped in just that's seeped in the economic situation that people are dealing with. And it's very honest and it's very, and again, that's right on the nose too. I get it. And that's why I'm not saying I don't love this film. I
Just
think
want to have something to complain about.
Well, Taylor Sheridan himself will say, I tell simple stories.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the virtue. I want to apologize for stepping away. I have some cats and dogs, and sometimes you see something about to happen and you just need to go and say, hey, make good choices.
I was
Kitty?
concerned that you had
understand.
spontaneously combusted and I missed.
So I apologize for
I
that.
to see someone spontaneously
No, we didn't
combust.
see any little. You want to do that once. You want to have a little smoke machine and then walk away and then have a little smoke come up. Like it
That
looks like
would thrill me because growing up, there were various things. You always thought you were going to catch on fire because Dick Van Dyke did the stop, drop, and roll commercial that we had to watch a million times. You always thought that you were going to encounter quicksand a lot more than
that's true
ever happens.
and then it was
as
going
an
to be a lot
adult.
deadlier than it really is.
And the third thing is, I was sure I would see someone spontaneously combust, and I'm disappointed that.
We could make that happen, I think.
That's a movie.
Electronically, I mean.
That's a movie. I can't remember the name of it. That's a horror movie that just came out where people
The
start
Spinal Tap.
spontaneously
The
combusting.
drummers are spontaneously combusting.
Right, and in Spinal Tap, right.
Oh well,
So
yes,
there's-
of course.
All right,
There's
before we go,
there's two quick things. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's two quick things I just wanted to say. One thing that bothered me watching the movie is just it didn't ring true. This woman is running for 6 miles in barefoot in the snow. That's a sign of her desperation to save her life. I buy all of that. But they say that she died of a pulmonary embolism from breathing in the frozen air, and that becomes, spoiler alert, part of the climax, part of the justice that Jeremy Renner deals out to the man who raped her and caused her death. And I said to myself, is that really a real thing? So I talked to my cousin, the medical examiner, consulting forensic doctor Judy Melanik, a co-author with TJ Mitchell of the book Aftershock. And she said it's something that bothered her when she watched the movie too, because when you're running, blood goes to your extremities. You would not have a pulmonary embolism in that situation. So that kind of affected my look at it. But you, of course, would die from exposure in those conditions. So it's kind of a weird specific
but that
choice
scene
that he
specifically,
made.
not to mention, he's sitting there talking to Jerry Renner for 20 minutes, all right, about what's about to happen. I'm going to let you run. And Jerry Renner's lungs didn't explode. They're in the same atmosphere. They're in the same.
Well, no, it's not. It's about exertion. The premise of it is that you exercise.
Okay.
Like he didn't die because he was sitting there without shoes and enough of a coat.
Because he
He's
was
supposed
running?
to have dropped dead because Jeremy Renner made him run away.
Okay.
In other
And
words,
so that's what's
in
supposed to
that
cause it.
environment, I would always be perfectly safe.
Right. If you don't go fast, you're fine. Exactly. Now
But see, it would've been
the other thing that I wanted to talk about, I mentioned this at the beginning. There's a reason that this movie, I mean, I watched this movie and I thought this is an incredible movie. And like other things that Taylor Sheridan has been involved in, it's going to get Oscar nominations. It should get some awards. I thought Gil Birmingham, especially, he played Martin, Natalie's father. He's the one who's sitting down grieving with Jeremy Martin.
Best scene in the film. That scene at the end was tough.
Yeah, I mean, just a beautiful performance. So the way this movie was made, it was an independent movie. It got into Sundance. The producers of the movie were like, I don't think we're done yet. I don't want it to go to Sundance. And Taylor Sheridan said, no, I want it to go to Sundance because I think we can sell it there. And that's happened before. LA Confidential was not supposed to go to the Cannes Film Festival. That's where I happened to see it. It didn't even have credits or anything, but Arnon Milchan is one of the producers. And he said, no, this movie is good enough. We're going to take it to Cannes. And it became a sensation there. It was incredible. So he goes to Sundance, and Harvey Weinstein and the Weinstein Company buy this movie. Now, that's really good news because Harvey Weinstein is really good at selling movies and marketing movies, and he's also really good at getting movies awards attention. He's gotten awards and Oscars for movies that aren't necessarily that good, and he's gotten attention for wonderful movies that may not have gotten that audience without it. So the movie comes out and it's aiming at this sort of awards prestige type of world, and then all the truth about Harvey Weinstein comes out. And what happens is Taylor Sheridan basically went to the leadership at the Weinstein Company. This is a very short version, and said, give me back my movie. I don't want you to have his name on it. I don't want you to have anything to do with it. And I'm aware of what that means in terms of distribution and promotion. And so he took the movie back because he said, I can't make a movie about what this movie is about and then have it be promoted and distributed by a man who's been a serial rapist for decades. So part of why this movie, like, I mean, I honestly, you see movies every year and you go, this is a great performance. This is that Gil Birmingham, his performance is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, I really think that should have been the award story of the movie. I mean, it's just really an incredible performance. But I find it very moving that the reason that a lot of people may not have seen this movie and it didn't get that attention is because the guy who told the story that needed to be told said, I can't tell this story with this happening, with this reality.
But it was produced by Bob Weinstein.
Bob Weinstein isn't a serial rapist.
Right.
So you may have a name on it, but Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
Oh no, he said, yeah, no, listen. I met Harvey Weinstein at the Cannes Film Festival, and I knew people that worked for him. Everybody knew he was a bully. I didn't know he was a rapist. Apparently, a lot of people did. And it's not shocking that somebody would get away with things like that. But I think it's both unfortunate that happened to this movie, but also wonderful that there are people in the business who would say there are more important things than letting this go forth in this way. Well, so it's a really special movie, I think.
Well, and I'm not a big. Go ahead, Debbie.
Principles, you never hardly hear of a good story like that, Drew, and that's good that you brought it to our attention because you usually see how cutthroat Hollywood is money-wise. I've seen it on this side, just our small little place with Sean being in the business.
Sure.
And then to really hear somebody that stands on their principles, and you don't get the glory and the fame, but man, it's heartwarming when you hear a story like that. That's so wonderful.
We'll watch Yellowstone.
Yeah,
I want to watch it too. Yeah,
I want to watch that too.
Makes you want to be in that camp, with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm surprised he wasn't able to get Bob.
You just want to be in the camp because Kevin Costner's in it.
Yeah. I'm in.
That's
in. Let's go. Me and Kevin riding horses together.
Man crush.
All right, what are we going to rate this? Let's rate this thing. Go ahead, John. What do you rate it? John Quattrucci.
I had my issues with it, but I'll give it Yippee-Ki-Yay.
Well, a Brojo. Yippee-Ki-Yay. Sean and Debbie.
Yippee-Ki-Yay.
Look at that. I'll Yippee-Ki-Yay here too. Yippee-Ki-Yay all around.
Drew. Nice job.
Listen,
Nice
tough
job.
subject. Tough subject.
I'm glad you guys watched the movie, and I'm glad that you had such thoughtful responses to it. And so
I'm
thanks for
glad
letting
you
me share
brought
it with you.
One
Thanks for
question.
bringing this.
Sure.
One question. Did they really shoot a wolf at the beginning?
Yeah, I was wondering about that myself.
No, they didn't kill any animals during the movie.
Yeah, there's no way they'd be able
Yeah,
to do
I mean,
that.
it's funny
I said
because
it was so realistic.
Well,
I said
unless the wolf had to be
ASPCA
killed. I mean, there may have been.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to film it.
Maybe not.
No, they wouldn't have
they
filmed
wouldn't
it. I
be
mean,
able to.
they're trying to shoot while. I mean, his job is to keep predators from killing commercial livestock.
Yeah. Right.
So that's the job. But no, they didn't kill any animals during the movie. At one point, you kind of think maybe is Jeremy Renner going to lead the rapist up to the
That's
mountain
what I
lions?
was thinking, to the lion.
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
To the
I'm glad
lion,
they didn't do
right.
that. But
You're a girl.
yeah.
No,
No,
I mean,
he
that
said
guy,
that's their
listen,
lucky day. That's their
I just want
lucky
to say
day.
one
He
more
didn't kill
thing.
them.
That bad guy was literally Snidely Whiplash with the,
Exactly.
with the curled mustache.
Exactly.
I mean, literally,
Exactly.
that's how bad that dude was. And, nobody was
Yeah.
sad to see him get his comeuppance.
Yeah,
but
he's a
it's like-
monster. He got what he
right.
deserved.
It would have been a little more subtle, but that was just, hey, I'm going to tire of the track. And that's it, anyway.
But Drew, to your point earlier, that it was a strange choice for this to say about the pulmonary embolism thing as opposed to just saying exposure. I think it would have been a lot less of an exciting, and if he given him his justice and said, "Here, you just got to sit out here and get cold and die," that wouldn't have been as exciting as making.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I think
it's more cinematic. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
It wouldn't have bothered me if Jeremy Renner shot him through the trailer like he did.
Exactly.
Well, for a second, I thought he was going to
that
shoot
was
him in the
gonna
back. He
happen.
goes,
Yeah, that
"Frick
was great.
this,
There
and
was-
just shoot him." Yeah.
Getting to that point too, that they were talking about how somebody was mentioning how casual they were about killing people and stuff, and yeah, because when he was talking to
Martin. The
Martin,
father.
yeah,
Mhm.
and he said when you find him, he's like, oh yeah, I'll.
He
I'll
said
kill him.
it's
I'll
taken
kill him.
care of.
It'll be
Yeah.
immediate.
Well, one
Look,
got
I mean,
away.
it's a Western. And
Yes.
you take the law
Revenge.
into your own hands. I mean, Elizabeth Olsen,
Not
the
a Shannon
federal,
Doe type Western. I mean,
the Federal Bureau of Investigation agent says, "I need your radio to get a helicopter. Go get him." And
Go
he
get
goes,
him.
"You know, I'm not going to bring him back." And she goes, "I know."
Go get him.
Because that's what you got to do.
We
And I
all
was
wanted because
totally
everybody
good with it.
because
And we were like,
Johnny
yeah,
Whiplash
yeah.
was so evil. We
Yeah,
wanted him gone.
exactly.
All
Yeah,
right,
it's
so
fine.
next week we're not going to do the wheel because Wojo's
No.
We're
bringing a
not.
special guest on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wojo, what's your guest name?
His name is Wyatt McDill. He wrote and directed a film
What a
called
great name.
3-Day Weekend.
Okay.
And his wife will join us too. Her name is Megan Huber, and she was a producer.
Will she get her
and
own square, or are they going to be in the same square?
I think they're going to be in the same square.
Okay.
Oh
I'll
my
ask.
God. Here we
I'll
go.
find out.
I
We
got
can't
to get
spare
my
a
wife
square,
on this
Michelle.
one. I'm going to get Rose on this one.
That was good.
Oh my
Little
God.
Seinfeld reference.
All right, so we'll do that next for the next one. We'll do 3-day
Exciting
weekend.
guest. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's going to be fun having the filmmaker here to talk about the film. That's
Guys,
awesome.
Yeah.
before we finish, since we're not doing the usual selection, do you want the Wheel of Drew one more time? I just want to give you that option. If you want to spin something before we
Talk
finish.
about something else.
I think you're.
I think you
Drew, is
talked
there-
about quite
I mean,
enough.
what more do you need?
I'm kidding. What more? There's 31 other things on the wheel. You let me know
Even
what you
I
want.
wasn't.
But with you and Ralph, we never know if you're kidding. We don't know what's going on.
I'll be
sometimes.
honest. He
Yippee-Ki-Yay,
confused me
Drew.
there. He confused me there. I thought I was in 10 again. I thought he went back. So, all right, next week, 3-day weekend. You guys have a good
Oh,
week.
Be
Stay
square.
safe. I can still say stay safe, even though we're slowly getting out of this thing. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy. I think Sean and Debbie froze again.
Yeah.
They did. All right. All right. That's awesome. All right, guys. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.